Hi, welcome to Holy Women Healing Wells. We invite you to join us on a sacred journey through Ireland and Wales. Saint Brigit of Kildare, a woman ablaze with God's womb compassion. In this program, we share stories and folklore about Saint Brigit of Kildare, an abbess who was a renowned leader in the early Celtic Church, acclaimed for her healing powers, love for creation, hospitality, and compassion. Although there are few historical facts about Saint Brigit, we know that she lived in the 5th century and founded a great community of nuns at Kildare. Some commentators today believe that Saint Brigit of Kildare may have heard confessions, celebrated masses, and ordained clergy. The accounts of Brigit's life from the Book of Lismore provide a portrait of a powerful woman wrapped in the mist of myth and legend. Dolores Whelan, an educator and facilitator from Dundalk, Ireland, believes that Brigit is a threshold woman who reflects the feminine face of divinity.
What I think is extraordinary is that over the last about 20 years, the whole energy of Brigit of Faughart is rising. Now, of course, she is also Brigit of Kildare. She's most well known as Brigit of Kildare. Legend has it that she was born in Faughart, which is slightly north west of Dundalk, which is on the east coast of Ireland. And the hill of Faughart is a very beautiful place. It rises right out over the plains of Muirhevna, which is a very ancient kingdom. And Brigit of Faughart, the traditional story says that she was born from a marriage of a slave woman and a chieftain. And he was she was of the old religion, he was of the new religion. Of course, that's a metaphor for saying that she was an in-between person. She was a carrier from one aspect of culture into another aspect of culture. So she was this threshold person, or she was also a liminal person, that is, betwixt and between. See, for me, Brigit is about possibilities. And it's this constant, generative, creative aspect of God, which the feminine aspect of God is. And this is very different from the old image of God, which of course we're all exorcising out of our minds, but this image of this old grey hair, old white-haired man with a beard, which in fact is the antithesis of the Brigit energy, because that's about an energy which is fossilized, which is actually not continually creating. And that idea that God made the world and everything was preordained and predestined, which was a very old image of God. And I mean, that is now, I suppose, being very much replaced by the whole idea that God and the cosmos and we are constantly being recreated. And that's such an exciting idea. Thomas Berry and Brian Swim talk about cosmogenesis, the actual creation of the universe and of the cosmos and of God and of all of us. It's not a finished book. And I think that there's a huge difference, and that is the difference between, that masculine kind of rigidity and the feminine flexibility or fluidity. And for me, Brigit embodies that fluidity, because every spring Brigit comes back, and every spring there are new possibilities.
Sister Mary Minehan, a Brigidine sister who lives in Kildare, shared with us some of the stories and legends about Saint Brigit. She believes that Brigit is being reclaimed as a model for our time.
I'm Mary Minehan, a Brigidine sister, living here in Solace Breda, the light of Brigit, at 14 Dara Park, Kildare Town, Ireland. I was born in County Tipperary and joined the Brigidine congregation, and in 1992 I was asked to come in here to Kildare to initiate a Christian centre for Celtic spirituality in the spirit of Brigit of Kildare. There is a whole resurgence of interest in Brigit, I'm amazed, not just in Ireland but all over the world. We have an artist here with us at the moment called Gail Donovan. She taught art in one of our schools in Australia, and she has 12 fabulous paintings of Brigit of Kildare. Brigit Healer, Brigit Prophetess, Brigit birthing a new future. Actually, the legends of Brigit are being retold as parables for today.
Gail Donovan, an artist from Adelaide, South Australia, showed her paintings at an exhibit in Kildare.
My name is Gail Donovan and I'm from Adelaide in South Australia. This painting, Brigit Epiphany 2000, really has kind of launched me into this set of paintings. The spirit of Brigit, but it could be understood as the spirit of God. It could even be understood as the feminine within the whole of humanity, encircling and in loving relationship with the earth. I've used these colours as hope. Again, it's a cosmic thing. It's an earth thing, but it's a cosmic thing as well. So the moon and the stars are there as part of it. And there's also a sense of the umbilical cord connecting the new birthing with the mother image. One is called Fire Woman Rising. Fire is an ancient symbol associated with Brigit, both as saint and as the pre-Christian goddess. And because there is such a rebirth of interest in her right across the planet, the inspiration is for me here that her spirit is rising, and it's about a burning passion for life and love and justice and all of those things that are so central to the wholeness of human existence, I think. So she's rising up, she's saying yes to life, and although it is the spirit of Brigit, it's also representing part of, I believe, the human spirit. You know, there are moments in our life when we either do say yes, or we would like to say that.
Gail Donovan's art presents Brigit as a woman who burst upon the scene with a faith that moves mountains and a fiery legacy that ignites the Celtic imagination to this day. Brigit, Goddess and Saint. Brigit lived at a time of transition from pagan to Christian Ireland. The new church blended her image with an older pagan goddess. Brigit is said to have been baptized and named by angels. When her mother was pregnant with Brigit, the Druid prophesied to her father, "This slave will bring forth a wonderful radiant daughter who will shine like the sun among the stars of heaven." Legend describes Brigit as the midwife of Mary and the godmother of Jesus.
Of course, you had a goddess Brigit as well as Saint Brigit. We're told that at the Faughart temple here in Kildare, the priestesses used to gather and light their ritual fires and petition the goddess Brigit for good crops, herds and things pastoral. And when Brigit and her sisters came, they kept the fire lighting here in Kildare up to about the 15th century when the fire was extinguished. But in 1993 that flame was relit here in Kildare, and we keep it here at the moment here in this house, Solas Frida, the light of Brigit.
Brigit, a woman of abundance, generosity, and hospitality.
Brigit was looking for some land to build her monastery, and she went to the King of Leinster and looked for it. And I'd say he refused, and she kept on and on and on. And eventually said, maybe to get rid of her, he said, "I'll give you what your cloak will cover." So she put down her cloak, and we're told it spread and spread over the Curragh. But one gentleman here in Kildare said, well, maybe Mary, she went in for the other 19 sisters, and they all came out with their cloaks, and they put it all, and the man got so tired of them, he might have said, "Oh, take it." One day, Brigit was by the wayside, and this wealthy woman heard she was around, and she brought her a beautiful basket of choice apples. And Bridget began to give away the apples to the sick and the poor who were around her. And the wealthy friend said, "But Bridget, those apples were for you." And Bridget replied, "What's mine is theirs." Oh, if we could live that today, when the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. I think, our ancestors were wonderful. We had so many great, valiant women who just were on fire with God's love and believed in themselves and in helping others and caring for others. But I think that spirit is still very alive today, and there's still wonderful men and women caring for their neighbours.
Bridget, a woman of the earth. Saint Bridget was the guardian of farm animals and the harvest. Stories abound of Saint Bridget increasing the yield of cow and sheep to help those who are sick or in need.
Many of the stories about Bridget deal with, the butter and the cows and the milk. We're told that, no matter how many visitors came to Bridget or many people called at the door, there was always enough milk. And many of the images of Bridget we see are with Bridget with the cow. I suppose it is the whole feminine face of God that is very important for Bridget. So we look to Bridget as an earth woman who was very much in touch with the elements, the earth, the air, the fire, the water, with nature, with the milking, with the land, the sowing and the reaping. Bridget very much in touch with the Celtic roots, had a great reverence for all of creation. So I suppose today we could ask ourselves, how aware am I to my responsibility for caring for the earth today?
Saint Bridget, a model of equality and partnership. Saint Bridget founded a double monastery in Kildare, which included women and men, some of whom lived a celibate life, while others were married couples with children. All were referred to as religious, whether married or single, and lived in a Christian community or village, having dedicated their lives to Christ. This is a model of what an ancient Celtic monastery looked like. The overall authority within a double monastery often resided with an abbess, who governed both the male and the female houses. Bridget was a powerful leader. She appointed her own bishops and bishops in adjacent lands. Bridget invited Conleth, a hermit from Newbridge, to assist her in Kildare. According to the life of Bridget, written in the 7th century by Cogitosus, Bridget and Conleth governed her church by means of a mutually happy alliance. Some scholars believe that there is evidence of women priests in the Celtic church and of their presiding at Mass.
The day that Bridget was professed on Croghan Hill, we're told that there were 8 sisters professed. And Bishop Mel, instead of saying the prayer for profession of sister, said the prayer for consecration of bishop. And Macaulay said, "Mel, why did you do that?" And he said, "I had no control over the words that came from my mouth. It was by the power of the Spirit." So we're told that Bridget was leader here. This was the leading abbacy in all of Ireland. But of course, even though she was a great leader, she knew she couldn't do it alone, and she went over to Newbridge to Great Connell and invited over Conleth, who was a smith craftsman, and they had a double monastery for men and women here in Kildare. I think equality is very important today.
Bridget's Holy Wells. Water has always been a sign of healing, birthing, and renewal in the Celtic tradition. In pre-Christian times, wells were identified with the presence of a goddess and were a symbol of the womb of Mother Earth, the source of life. One of St. Brigid's wells in Kildare, called Tobar Breed, is a sacred place where people gather for ritual and reflection on the legacy of St. Brigid, a model for our time. St. Brigid's Wayside Well in Kildare is a spring well. We can contemplate the water gently springing from the earth and open ourselves to the healing, refreshing love of God. St. Brigid's Well at Faughart has been a popular place of pilgrimage for up to 1,000 years.
I mean, the rituals around Bridget, the rituals are a celebration of the elements of fire and water. And of course, actually there's the water here on the altar is Bridget's water from the well in Faughart. And when we do the rituals here, we would do a blessing with Bridget's water. And what we do, which is again this whole idea of egalitarian spirituality, is that it's not the priestess or the hostess of the evening who blesses, but each person, I would bless you, you would bless Regina, Regina would bless the next person. So it's this idea that each one of us have the power to bless, and so you bless with the water. And blessing with the water is this whole idea of washing away bless your eyes so that you can see more clearly. Bless your ears so you can hear more clearly. Bless your mouth so you can speak more purely. Bless your hands so you can touch more effectively, more sensitively. And again, the fire is the whole idea of what the fire does. The fire warms, the fire heals, the fire transforms. So I see very much the Festival of Bridget, the fire element of Bridget is the element of transformation.
Rituals and blessings associated with St. Brigid's Cross.
It's customary here in Ireland before St. Brigid's Day to weave St. Brigid's crosses. Thousands of crosses are woven in the houses before St. Brigid's Day. I had a sister here in this room actually some time ago, and she told me she was the eldest of a family, a big family up in Donegal. And on the eve of St. Brigid's Day, the 30th of January, her mum would send her out to collect rushes. Then she would come back and knock on the door and say, "An will fáilte ribh bríd. Do you welcome Bridget?" And the mum would come out and invite her in, and she'd say, "Sheva, sheva, sheva, tá fáilte ribh bríd." Yes, where there's life, there's Bridget. We do welcome Bridget. And she would go in, and they would all sit around the table and make the crosses. And the crosses were a symbol of protection and peace. Protection from fire, protection from disease. I remember my granny making crosses and putting them out over even the cow house and the hen house and the stable, because she believed that the curative powers of Bridget and Bridget's protection would guard those houses. Balo ia orif o saun go lála bríde, o lála bríde go bealtana, o bealtana go lunasa, is o lunasa go saun. God's blessing on you from Halloween to St. Brigid's Day, from Brigid's Day to May Day, from May Day to August, and from August to Halloween. Amen.
May Bridget light a fire of compassion and justice in our hearts and show us how to dance the world ablaze with love. Thank you for joining us for this special program on Holy Women Healing Wells. We hope that you'll join us real soon again for more programs on God Talk. God bless you. Prayer to St. Bridget. St. Bridget, you are a woman of compassion. That we may passionately care for the suffering in the world, we pray. God, set our hearts ablaze with love. St. Bridget, you were a woman of the earth. that we may care for our marvelous planet, we pray. God, set our hearts ablaze with love. Saint Bridget, you are a leader in the Church, that we may live as equals and partners in our society and churches, we pray. God, set our hearts ablaze with love. Saint Bridget, you are a woman of hospitality and generosity, that we may warmly welcome others and share our resources and talents with people who are in need. God, set our hearts ablaze with love. Questions for reflection and discussion. How can we protect and care for creation? What does it mean to live justly and compassionately in our world today? Who are the strangers who need our generosity and welcome today? How is St. Bridget a model for equality and partnership?